Americans are paying 18 cents a gallon in federal taxes at the gas pumps. Presidential candidate John McCain wants to change that. He's pushing to suspend the charge over the summer. AutoNation chairman and CEO Mike Jackson is a vocal critic of McCain's proposal for a gas tax holiday, and guest host Doug Holtz-Eakin is the campaign's economic policy advisor. Mike, we'll talk to you first, and then we'll get to Doug. I'm trying to just figure out what you want to do, Mike, and we've talked about this a lot. Because you know that people are having a really hard time already. So it's almost like we already put in your $1 or $2 gas tax that you've talked about for people that are least able to afford it. They're already unable to afford it. You think it still makes sense, and then you could actually rebate some of that to people that are in need, as long as we just get the price high enough to migrate people to smaller cars. That's your idea, isn't it?
Yeah, ideally, when I say we need higher gasoline taxes, the whole goal is to keep the money in America and not send it overseas. So don't get me wrong, I'm all for knocking down the price of petroleum, but to get the conservation and the type of behavior that we need in America, you can't have cheap gasoline. We need more expensive gasoline at the pump, and the way to do that is with higher gas taxes. Now, to make the consumer economically whole, you can rebate all the money at the end of the year. And the American people are so smart, they will arbitrage the difference between what they pay at the pump and the money they get back, change their behavior, and be rewarded for changing their behavior. But this idea that we can have cheap gasoline in America open-ended is just fallacy.
But in a recession, is it really feasible to do that, Mike? I mean, wouldn't it make things worse even if there was going to be a rebate at the end of the year if you would all of a sudden go up?
I totally agree, Joe. Joe, I totally agree. First, we should have done it in the past, and now we need to do it sometimes in the future, because at the moment we are at a gut-wrenching transformation point for the consumer and for the industry. So I'm not saying add more gas taxes now, but floating the idea that the ultimate goal of our energy policy is to have cheap gasoline, and that's what's around the corner, I think sends the wrong message. As a matter of fact, we're going to need more expensive gasoline at the pump through taxation, keep the money in America, rebate it at the end of the year, but we need people to value fuel efficiency.
You know, it's already happening. You saw last week with Ford. You've seen what Nardelli has said. Suddenly, even GM's found some religion at $14 a share, Mike. We're already migrating to smaller cars.
Yeah, and that's a painful migration, Joe, which has to happen. And I think the industry has made the correct decision, then a difficult decision, to shut down truck factories and start to convert them over to car production and make all the investment in fuel efficiency technology. So all that's a silver lining from higher gasoline prices.
Right.
And to have our political leaders in Washington say they want the price of gasoline to go down, which happened in the 70s and 80s, you're just going to unwind all the good that just happened, and we're going to repeat this crisis again down the road on an even more dramatic level.
What do you think? Well, Mike, I think you're right about the fact that we just can't go back and unwind this and repeat the mistake again and again. Right? What the senator wants to do is get us off oil, particularly driving oil. And that's what he's talking about today, actually, in California, talking about making CAFE standards really tougher. You can't buy your way out. Moving to flex fuel vehicles. Brazil went from 5% flex fuel to 70% in 3 years. No reason the U.S. can't do it. But he's going to put out two big things, a clean car challenge, big tax credits for cars that have no carbon coming out of the tailpipe, and a big battery challenge. Let's have an X Prize, get a battery that you can drive on. That gets you off oil, allows you to drive off the grid. We have nuclear power, and the senator would like to use a lot more. The gas tax is just a quick way to help people and truckers. I mean, this is like $600 a month for a trucker who's just trying to get stuff to the store. It's faster than a rebate. Times are tough out there. And, people seem to be opposed to it. And the only problem I have with that is it works. I mean, every time they've tried it, it's worked. And, I know my economist friends have their models, but I think they should take their models and go down to the pump.
So, first, I'm a supporter of Senator McCain. I think he's the right man to lead America. And I think he understands the energy crisis in the right terms, that it is a situation of national security to be sending $500–600 billion a year out of the U.S. I applaud his position of stating that we must drill offshore in America. It was the right decision in the past not to do it, but the technology has advanced to the point where you can safely do it. That's being demonstrated every day all over the world, from the North Sea to Brazil to what we do in the Gulf of Mexico. I just think on a gas tax holiday, it's sort of like your house is on fire and your neighbor brings you a cup of water. I mean, you can throw it on the fire, you can drink it, but and I'm sure the gestures appreciate it, but in my view, it's not policy, it's a gesture.
So you got one of the biggest companies in South Florida, and you think they should drill?
Oh, absolutely. You know, 25 years ago, there were genuine environmental and safety risks with these big platforms. But today, you can put these platforms over the horizon and very safely drill.
Do you hear that from other
it's not environmentally, not environmentally safe. Oh yeah, it's changing here. People have really thought about it. And, you know, it just doesn't pass the logic test. If it's safe to drill in the Gulf of Mexico on one side of Florida, why isn't it safe to drill on the other side of Florida?
I mean, they got
it's
crummier
ridiculous.
beaches over there.
What about
I don't
spring
think
break?
so.
Although Padre Island's pretty nice, right?
Yeah, no, I'm going to hear from the. Oh, once we called it. What did we call it? The redneck something or other. People got all mad. Yeah, redneck. They got all mad at me. I know. They got. But that's what you can look it up on Google.
I have to applaud Senator McCain for being out there and joined by Governor Charlie Crist down here in Florida that says, you know, it's time to revisit this issue. Things have changed.
Getting a lot of flack.
It was the right decision in the past.
Crist is getting pilloried. He's getting pilloried for that, Mike.
No. If you look at the polls, that's actually not true.
Oh, come on. Well, that's what I read in the New York Times, though.
That's the editorial boards and the elites. The people understand this, and, you know, there are really two things that I think Mike's hit that are exactly right about this. Number one, states should have the decision. Senators always thought that. Number two, the Gulf, we had 3 huge hurricanes go through. A huge fraction of the platforms ripped from their moorings, and we got no major oil spill. And no one thinks of the Norwegians as an environmentally insensitive crowd, and they do this all the time.
All right. Yeah, Mike, did you see the CFO of Florida last week? Were you watching or did you miss that day? You got a TiVo every day. She was on, and I don't know.
And what did she say? I missed that.
She just is against it. We just got a lot of mail. We got more mail on that segment. I thought we just asked her a couple of normal questions, and it was probably most people are in the drilling camp, but the people that aren't just think you shouldn't ask anyone any questions.
I think what I applaud Senator McCain for is he's expressing it the right way.
Yeah, okay.
If you really look at people and say, look, here's your choice. Send America's money to Venezuela and to OPEC, or we're going to have to safely drill offshore and keep the money in America. People understand that. I think you're going to see a major shift on the whole concept of offshore drilling. And I think the opposition position no longer makes sense today.
Thanks, Mike.
Great seeing you guys this morning.
Good seeing you.